In the last video, we were looking at how important perspective is. So we said, yes, there's an element of that we need self-discipline to get stuff done during the day, but there's also, we have to be able to think about the situation slightly differently. And when we do that, it can actually help us to manage the situation better. And I suggested that we think about this time slightly differently in terms of emotions. Like, what are our emotions actually teaching us about what we value about ourselves, which is incredibly important for personal development and personal growth. And in this video, we're going to look a little bit more at emotions and how we can think about emotions and manage them better. And where we need to start is that it's a really good idea to increase your emotional vocabulary. And what I mean by that is that, so often we just use the words I'm happy or I'm sad or mad, and we kind of generalize our emotions in a sense, and we need to be a bit more specific. And someone explained it like this to me, which I always quite like. They said, imagine that you walk into a room, and if I walk into a room, let's say my office here, I might see grey and blue and white and yellow. That's great. But if an artist or interior designer had to walk into my room, maybe what they would see is dove grey and midnight blue and turquoise and butter yellow. And depending on what words they use, the world actually looks very different to them. They see all of these different shades of colours, which there are. You think about blue, how many different kinds of blue there are. It's not just blue. And so depending on how the language and how we can explain it, we see these colors, they come to life. And emotions are a bit like this. We're really narrowing down our experience if we only use words like I'm sad or I'm happy. Part of how we manage emotions is to be able to really identify exactly, use the right word as to what am I feeling, because there's a big difference between feeling sad or feeling depressed, or feeling a bit frustrated versus feeling angry, or feeling a little worried or concerned versus feeling really anxious. There are big differences between those feelings. And so what I encourage you to do when you wake up in the morning is to really think about, what am I actually feeling? And if you don't know the words, go and Google. There's whole bunches of sites that come up with all sorts of different names for emotions. And in the morning, to identify, what is it that I'm actually feeling here? You said, what value maybe does it point to? What message is it sending? But at the same time, when I know what I'm feeling, I can then manage it a lot better. And if you think about it like this, if you had maybe I was doing some DIY around the house this weekend, so maybe think of this example. If I have a hammer or have a screw, I need to know which one I've got, because depending on what it is, there's a tool that I can use to be able to use the screw or the nail effectively. So if I have a hammer, if I have a nail at least, I'm not going to use a screwdriver to try and hammer in the nail, no. So once I know what I've got, I know what tool to be able to use to manage it properly. And it's the same thing with emotions. If I wake up feeling a little irritable versus wake up feeling super angry, I need to be able to manage that slightly differently. And how do you manage some of these emotions? Well, there are various different things that you can do, but just a few pointers in general. It doesn't matter what you're feeling. Breathing is a really fantastic way of managing all sorts of different emotions. And someone explained to me, which also I really loved, was this idea of our brains are a bit like, if you've ever been to India or Thailand, places like that, where they've got the elephant, and there's people that ride the elephants, and always say, because I know there's animal abuse goes on, so if we just leave that aside for the moment, but this concept of this big animal with this little person on top that directs this big animal, which is amazing when you see it. It just flicks its ear and it goes off here, and it's amazing how this big animal can be controlled by the small little person on top. But if you've ever seen an enraged elephant or panicked elephant, do you imagine there's anything this little person on top can do to stop it? No, not at all. They're just kind of holding on for dear life, or they've fallen off long ago. I love going to the bush and love going to Kruger, and when I see elephant up close, they're huge, and they don't care whether you're there, they just run right over you. And our brains are a bit like this. We have this very big emotional part of our brain, which is like the elephant. And our logical thinking brain is like the person on top that directs this. And it all works beautifully well if our elephant is calm, if our emotions are calm. But if our emotions are all over the show, there's very little logical thinking going on. And our brain is just kind of holding on for dear life, or it's kind of fallen off and been trampled underfoot. So we have to kind of keep our emotions in check. Number one, we have to know, what am I feeling? How am I feeling? What is it? To name it correctly. And then once I name it correctly, I can manage it. And one of the best ways to kind of keep this elephant calm is through breathing, deep diaphragm breathing. And a lot of you, if you've ever sung in the choir or something, that would actually, you'd know what I'm talking about. And it's belly breathing. So rather than breathing all up in your chest like this, it's actually, imagine you've got a straw going into your tummy, and as you breathe in, your tummy actually goes out. And as you breathe out, it kind of goes down. And the pattern for this is I want you to breathe in for about 3 seconds, hold for a second, and then slowly out for around 5 seconds. So it's a shorter in breath and a longer out breath. It's actually around about six breaths a minute. Which I know seems very slow, but when you get it right, it's actually pretty easy. When we're breathing in that pattern, it just kind of helps keep our emotions in check and our elephant calm. That we can think through what we need to do during the day, and our logical brain is not kind of being trampled underfoot.